Well, the Democratic frontrunners are ramping up their attacks on one another. Former Vice President Joe Biden and Senator Bernie Sanders battled over Social Security on Twitter last night, at one point telling each other to get real. The two candidates are separated by less than 80 delegates. The attacks follow Senator Elizabeth Warren's departure from the race on Thursday. She has yet to endorse a candidate. CBS News political correspondent Ed O'Keefe has the latest on the 2020 race.
A preview of the battle between Joe Biden and Bernie Sanders came after President Trump made this comment at a town hall meeting last night.
If you don't cut something in entitlements, you'll never really deal with the debt.
We'll be cutting, but we're also going to have growth like you've never had before.
Sanders took the opening to attack Biden, tweeting that he has repeatedly advocated for cuts to Social Security. As a senator in the 1990s, Biden was open to cuts to Social Security as a way to balance the budget. But he now advocates for expanding the program and responded to Sanders saying the only person who would cut Social Security if he's elected is Donald Trump. Maybe you should spend your time attacking him. After Biden's Super Tuesday wins, and as the contest turns to 6 states voting on Tuesday, Sanders is trying to draw sharp contrasts.
We have very different records, and the American people should understand the difference.
Biden and Sanders are hoping for the endorsement of Senator Elizabeth Warren, who dropped out yesterday. But she says she's not there yet.
Let's take a deep breath and spend a little time on that.
In a historically large and diverse Democratic field, Warren was the frontrunner for a time last year. But her exit means Democrats are unlikely to once again nominate a woman.
One of the hardest parts of this is all those big promises and all those little girls who are going to have to wait 4 more years. That's going to be hard.
I want to bring in Antjuan Seawright. He's a CBS News political contributor and Democratic strategist. So, Antjuan, Joe Biden, Bernie Sanders, already attacking each other. Do we expect to see them ramp up it even more? You know, it's down to a 2-person race. What do you expect them to bring out that could really distinguish the two of them?
Oh, I think this is just a pregame warm-up act for some of the stark comparisons between the two candidates and their policy positions that will play out over the next coming weeks and possibly months. At the end of the day, most people agree with me when I said this process started to be, from the very beginning, a battle between the progressives and the centrists of this party. That is going to define who we are as a party and what our messaging and our message looks like and our policy agenda. That's how this primary is being played out. And Bernie Sanders knows he has a very loyal following, people who are unsatisfied with the system as they know it. And Joe Biden knows he has on his side the weight of the party, and most people feeling like his candidacy represents something that will bring this party together and help us win places Democrats have not traditionally won.
So when it comes to Elizabeth Warren, who dropped out of the race yesterday, who needs her endorsement more at this point?
The party. I think that while certain candidates may draw from her platform, and let me say this, she put on a masterclass, Rena, of how to take a 50,000-foot economic message and land it into kitchen tables and living rooms across the country. I give her credit for that. So you're going to see both candidates draw from her agenda and her spirit into this primary race, but the party will benefit the most because at the end of the day, no matter what happens between the two of them, we're going to need some glue to pull this party back together, and I think she could be a very intricate part of pulling this party back together.
You know, we started this campaign off in the Democratic side with one of the most diverse fields ever. And now it's winnowed down to these two front runners, white men in their 70s. Is anyone in the top of the Democratic establishment talking about this, that this reflection, is it enough as you move forward into 2020?
Well, I don't think you can argue or be upset with the voters in these early contests who've made their decisions about who they want to support, and this is how the primary field has shaped out. What I will say is that each candidate, Biden and Sanders, has a responsibility to think about what these candidates who represented a certain level of diversity, their platforms, and what it meant to communities, particularly black and brown communities who are the heart and soul of this party. The second thing is I think both candidates in their thinking and in their planning as they make steps towards being the nominee have to consider what diversity looks like on the ticket. And diversity means different things for different people.
Yeah.
But for me, as a young African American in the rural South growing up, I want to make certain that African Americans will have their say-so on the ticket, because it will be African Americans that will have a large say-so in who our nominee will be and have a very loud voice in the say of who the next president of the United States will be.
We heard that in South Carolina. We heard it on Super Tuesday as well. You know, looking ahead, speaking of which, to next Tuesday, you've got 6 states that are going to hold primaries, one of which is Michigan. Sanders announced he's going to skip a campaign event today in Mississippi to focus on the state. He won Michigan back in 2016. Joe Biden has already received the governor's endorsements. What are you watching for there?
I'm looking for not only who will be the winner, but how they won and the type of coalition they put together, particularly in Michigan. Michigan will be one of the places we have to win in 2020 in order to have a chance of being successful. We have statewide elected officials in Michigan thanks to the hard work in the 2018 midterms. And I'm also looking for in the exit polls, what are the top issues that drove voter turnout? And if we can have excitement and voter turnout and voter participation, like we had record turnout in North Carolina and South Carolina and some other places Super Tuesday, I think that will send a strong message to Republicans and to the country, independent thinkers too, about what Democrats are thinking going into 2020. And in Mississippi, I'm looking for the African American participation numbers. Mississippi is so pregnant with possibilities when it comes to moving a state that's really red to possibly purple or blue. And if we can energize and galvanize African Americans in Mississippi for the primary, that could mean something down the road for November, in which they will have a big Senate race on the ballot in 2020.
Pregnant with possibilities. I don't think anyone's ever talked about an election night quite like that. Antjuan Seawright, that was great. Thank you so much for joining us, my friend.
Thank you.